Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Wrestling Laureate Podcast with your main event, Man E, here on the mic, as always. Thank you for tuning into the Wrestling Laureate Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. We have a great show for you today. We will be covering AEW, a nice little AEW Dynamite / Rampage review. We also have our Thursday night wrestling preview. Tonight there is a Ring of Honor as well as Impact Wrestling, TNA. And we're going to cap it off with Ronda Rousey's comments toward the WWE, calling it an S blank blank T show. Anyways, and we're going to finish all up. Make sure you stay tuned for our final segment, which includes not a WWE return, but Alicia Fox is returning back to wrestling. She's going to be at Stardom, and she's going to fight Mickie James. So we'll get more further into that. But, as always, make sure you, we get a lot of questions from the viewers that come in during the show. So to ensure that your questions get read on air, I ask you to use the Tips and Donations link at the GSMC Podcast.net. With your questions, just put your questions on top of the list so that I can see it. So we can have like a nice little conversation about wrestling. Tell me what you like, tell me what you don't like, tell me what I can further elaborate on. Tell me, I don't know, just your opinions. The more opinions, obviously the better the show. So let's keep it rocking. Again, the link is the GSMCpodcast.net. So without further ado, first segment, AEW review. I gotta be honest, guys. This AEW is quickly becoming like one of my favorite things to watch, especially in the world of wrestling. It has a lot of like Attitude Era-esque beginning of Ruthless Aggression, WWE / WWF feel. It's giving me like a lot of WCW vibes, and that's a lot of the reasons why people liked watching WCW as opposed to the WWF or WWE, is because I think WCW, they were more intact with like what the wrestlers wanted to do, their personalities, and kind of just they listened more to them as opposed to you had these higher executives like stating, this is what's going to happen, this is how it's going to go down. If you don't do it, you're fired, basically. Like, you're going to end up as not even a mid-carder, maybe like a low carder, like, barely even making it to SmackDown or Raw, or even before then, like, back a couple years ago, they used to have, WWE, they used to have multiple shows. That was before NXT was, like, its own entity, and you had 205 Live, and I think you had WWE Superstars, or a main event. It was, it was pretty cool to have multiple shows, but now you kind of have, that umbrella of Raw and SmackDown, and then NXT as its own entity. Starting off the segment, AEW, so the CEO, Mercedes Moné, kicked us off Dynamite here in Toronto. So once again, she comes out, she addresses the AEW universe, basically said that she is like, she's in it to win it. Like, she's going to challenge Toni Storm. She might even go for the tag titles, maybe even the TBS. And if she can be that first ever Triple Crown like champion, by all means, like, let's just do it. Because Sasha Banks, or Mercedes Moné, the CEO, she has like such a huge fan base around her. And I think that's what AEW is probably going to kind of use to their advantage, which is a smart business strategy. Like, who wouldn't? This girl's drawing in 1 million viewers every single time she's on the screen. So they're going to try to, you saw that in this episode as well. I think I saw her on 3 separate occasions, or maybe 2. Maybe 2. I don't know. I might be tripping. But, so during her little speech, the arena goes dark. Absolutely dark. And then it, comes back on. You have Julia Hart and Sky Blue ready to, kind of, take it to the CEO, but eventually they were ran off by Chris Statlander and Willow of Nightingale, which is crazy because they had a street fight for the main event in Rampage, which is actually really, really cool. We'll get into that more later. But I don't know, like then once again the arena went dark, and then Hard and Blue were nowhere to be found, and then the lights came on, and you had Nightingale had the chair like right here, like ready to strike Mercedes, or was it? I'm not sure. It could have been a misunderstanding. You know what I mean? But um, I know they faced each other. Mercedes Moné was actually injured in that match with Willow of Nightingale for that New Japan Wrestling Strong title. And I think she said in an interview that she wasn't sure if Willow did it on purpose or whatever, which is, kind of far-fetched because, essentially as wrestlers, you're like coworkers, and you don't want to, cause the demise of somebody else. But then again, there are hidden, agendas in the world of wrestling. You'll find this like watching like A&E, like dark wrestling or something like that, or like also you find these in kind of just in like you see these in movies. You see these in movies a lot. Like I don't know if you guys watch The Wrestler with Mickey Rourke. That honestly, kind of portrays the world of a wrestler pretty darn good. Like you fight at these independent circuits hoping to make it big, and if you don't, then you're still wrestling in like a recreational center for just like, pennies and dimes. But some people get into the business. It's not the best. It's one of the most cutthroat businesses, the wrestling industry. So, as a fan, I feel lucky, like, because for a fact you're seeing the best. You're watching just poetry in motion. Like wrestling is more than a sport. It's kind of like an art form. So after that, you had the Elite hype up Okada as he was set to fight Eddie Kingston for the AEW Continental Championship. And the way they set it up was it was pretty good. It was pretty good. I like the EVPs. What they're doing with the Elite ever since the Rainmaker was signed to AEW has been kind of, I don't know, it's been kind of genius. Like you signed this hot free agent coming out of New Japan Wrestling, and he's just, I don't know, he has a lot of he has a big future ahead of him. So I don't know, it's kind of interesting to see what Tony Khan does, with that kind of thing. So the match was good. The match was good. At times there was kind of like you can see the discrepancy when it came to like, you see Eddie Kingston. He's not really your kind of like ideal champion. Like when you see your ideal champion, you think of like Drew McIntyre or Roman Reigns, John Cena. These guys are like just shredded. These guys are just like ripped. And Eddie Kingston's kind of like that tough SOB to like, dude, I don't need to expect to kick your ass. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm going to retain my championship. I'm going to kill it. So don't mess with me. And that's what he said before the match even started. He said, even if I don't win, I'm going to take a piece of you and you're going to remember, like, I'm going to leave a scar, so to speak. So he looked pretty good. The match was pretty good, but obviously Okada came out on top, which is, I think, kind of smart. Going into AEW Dynasty, which airs in early April. I know this is going to be pretty big. I think Okada is going to do pretty well for this belt. I think eventually I would like to see Kenny Omega come back, and then they kind of have rehash like a rivalry that's been going on in the wrestling world for like years. So that'd be super cool. He was at the end of the match. He was confronted by Pac. I can't say his before the B Pac, and I don't know. I think that'd be a pretty good match. Seeing these two, kind of like physical specimens go at it. Pac, it was obviously, like I said, he was Neville from WWE. I watched him a lot, so he has like high flying abilities. He has the ability to kind of take over the match, kind of take over like just the television screen and just kind of have your eyes just glued on him. Like that's how he rolls, and that's how like this is what AEW needs. Like people like Okada, Sasha Banks, and with Pac coming back. So it's always good to feature like young talent ready to take your brand to like kind of like a superstardom level. In that. So and after that, once again we saw the CEO, Mercedes Moné, be featured in a promo where you had Renee interviewing Willow of Nightingale and Chris Statlander about basically about the street fight that's going to happen. And Mercedes came out and she was like, she kind of had this swagger to her, like, you know what I mean? Like, she was like, "Oh, thank you for saving me," but like, kind of like like I didn't really need you, but you were there anyway, so whatever floats your boat. If you want to help me, it works. But then she kind of didn't have a lot of nice words to say to Willow, but um, I don't know. I like Mercedes Monet in this position where she's like this confident, like kind of like, I don't know, like I kind of want to compare her to like the female version of The Rock, like where like obviously she did work outside of wrestling industry. She was on The Mandalorian, much like The Rock did some. Obviously, he did a lot of movies in Hollywood, and like when they come back, they just kind of have this aura around them that's like, you better like you recognize them. Like even if they, come in and like don't even lift a thumb or a finger or anything like that, like you just notice they're there. And I think that's really good that Mercedes Monet is in this position. And I believe that she's going to be kind of like a Rock figure where you're not necessarily a heel. You're not necessarily like a baby face in terms of pro wrestling, but I don't know. You're kind of like that. You're gonna kind of do what you want. You're gonna put on good matches, great promos, and the world's gonna love you, like no matter what. So I kind of see that happening for Mercedes. Um, the next match we had Chris Jericho, the Lionheart, versus Hook. All in all, this was a pretty good match, but this match kind of started off like right off the bat. Like Hook like gave Jericho this back suplex, and he like landed right on the back of his neck / head. And like, he took a little while to get up. I don't know if that move was like botched or if this was part of like the plan. But all in all, I think we can come to the conclusion as wrestling fans that Chris Jericho's getting pretty old there. Like he still does the top rope stuff and he's still like very active, but I don't know. I think I don't think he's on his way out because he's always kind of been around. But at the end of the match, he hit a lion salt and he was able to try to get a Hook into the walls of Jericho, but never really quite did it. But all in all, Hook rolled up Jericho, kind of pulled a fast one on him, but it ended with like a nice little fist bump, like, hey, like, respect, you know what I mean? Which is kind of how Jericho rolls. I don't know if y'all, watched him back when he was in WWE / WWF, or even when he was in WCW. He was kind of like that guy that he was unpredictable, you know what I mean? Like, one week he can be fist bumping you, like, hey, good match, bro, and the next week, like, he could screw you over and cost you a championship, and then that's just how Jericho rolls. He could flip from heel to babyface faster than any wrestling talent I've ever seen. So, I don't know what they're gonna do with Chris Jericho, but it should be pretty cool. So moving on, we had Swerve Strickland. He basically had an open challenge that was answered by the Butcher. Swerve Strickland he's an amazing like wrestler. He's been around wrestling in AEW for quite a while, but he kind of had his hands full. But every single time it seemed like the Butcher got the upper hand. Like you can just see Swerve's face, like he's like kind of like that Hulkamania where you hit him, like and he's like, like just charging up, like you know what I mean. But I don't like. I like the match. He won via submission, which is pretty cool. Usually you have big strapping guys like that, like win with like a super heavyweight move or like maybe like a power bomb. But like no, he won with finesse. He won by submission. So and then he started talking trash to Samoa Joe, basically like just egging him on, being like, why don't you give me another chance? Because when they did fight, it was a triple threat match, and Swerve wasn't pinned, and Hangman Alan Page was kind of like he knocked out the referee, and it was just that kind of drama, to kind of leave that lens open, kind of keep that opportunity open for AEW, maybe down the lines to have a Swerve Strickland Samoa Joe like pay-per-view. But Samoa Joe came out and he, talking. Samoa Joe's one of the best trash talking guys out there. So, he did his thing and, I don't think there's going to be a Swerve Samoa Joe match within the next couple of weeks, but maybe Dynasty. That'd be pretty cool. Dynasty. So next, I want to talk about, the I Quit match between Adam Copeland and Christian Cage. Very, very, very cool. Very, very old school wrestling. Both of these guys are going to look back on this and be like, damn, that was the best match we've ever had together. And of course, you remember that WrestleMania 2000 where they had the tables, ladders, and chairs match between the Dudley Boys, the Hardy Boys, and themselves. But this is a match that probably a lot that both of them longed for a very, 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 very long time, because essentially you're working with your best friend. You guys get to do a whole bunch of cool shit, like set up props, tables. I think there was even like a chair wrapped in barbed wire. It was pretty cool. It was pretty darn entertaining. If you haven't watched it, watch that match. It's pretty cool. It was like 30 minutes of just like gruesome, just oh man. There was even during the match, since they're in Toronto and like Canada, hockey's kind of pretty popular, where they took off the jerseys and Edge, well not Edge, Adam Copeland was like, he had the Toronto Maple Leafs one. Obviously, they're in Toronto. I think they're in the stadium where they play actually. And he brought out the goalie's net. They had the hockey stick. It was just, it was just so hockey, they were pertaining to like a nice little hockey crowd, because Canadians are crazy for hockey. And, with that being said, it's popular in the States, but not as much as, obviously American football is kind of like the head honcho there. But anyways, so Adam Copeland, he was busted open. He was busted open pretty bad. And this was for the TNT championship. So, just to kind of add on to that. An I Quit match, man. There's been a lot of good I Quit matches back in the day. I remember the I Quit match between The Rock and Mankind, where the Mankind was basically like The Rock was just over and over hitting him with the chair, to the point where he actually hit him for real. And Mick Foley, when that match ended, he was unconscious. It was actually like a speaker that, like, it was recorded. They replayed his, they switched it up and they're like, I quit Rock. I quit, like, and it was just like, it was kind of crazy. Like, as a wrestling fan, you kind of saw that and you're like, oh my God, like, this guy just got, like, beat the heck out of. So, of course, patriarchy, like, they came out, Kill Switch, Luchasaurus, they came out to kind of have his back. But Daniel Garcia and Daddy Magic saved Adam Copeland. So I don't know. It's kind of fitting to see kind of end like that, where they're all like handcuffed, and he brought out that stick with just like spikes, and he was gonna just like beat the heck out of him. But that was when Christian at the end was like, dude, no, I quit. Like, this isn't working. This isn't worth it, dude. Like, why am I gonna, like, what the hell? So I thought that was pretty cool. Also, something to touch on before we stop talking about AEW is the aerial assassin Will Ospreay came out and talked about his excitement fighting Daniel Bryan at Dynasty. Well, not Daniel Bryan, Bryan Danielson. I thought that was something to watch, because Will Ospreay is pretty exciting to watch. I watched a bunch of his tape. As soon as he got signed to AEW, I was like, who is this guy? Why does he come out with, like, he owns the world? Like, is that, like, his stuff don't stink? But no, he can back it up. Tony Storm and May, they rolled up Thunder Rosa, and they ended up getting the win. Her tag team partner was Purrazzo, and the match was it was pretty entertaining, but all in all, I think kind of Storm, she's the, not NXT. She's the AEW Women's Champion for a reason. That's what champions do. They find a way to win. The World Tag Team Title Tournament, the Best Friends defeated the Colis family on Rampage. And the Women's Street Fight, oh man, it was pretty good. It was pretty good. Definitely, you should watch it. You had, it was insane. Like, the, Sky Blue did a code blue on the announce table and it didn't break. So all you saw was Willow's head like bounce off, and like these girls like beat the heck out. They even inquired like thumbtacks. Like these girls, they went hard, man. It was very entertaining to watch. Entertaining as hell, to be honest. And they were trying to force the tacks in her mouth, Chris Statlander's mouth, and it was just like, oh man. It was pretty brutal. It was pretty darn brutal. But all in all, the TBS champ tapped out Statlander, and that was the end of that. The Rampage, was that street fight, and to be honest, it was well worth the wait. Well worth the wait. Which is pretty dope. So, all right, that was my AEW review. Hopefully you guys liked it. And if you liked it, let me know on the tips and donations link. If you didn't like it, let me know on the tips and donations link. All right, don't go anywhere because next we have a Thursday night wrestling preview, which is TNA Impact and Ring of Honor. So don't go anywhere.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
All right. Welcome back to the Wrestling Laureate Podcast, presented to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. Just to kind of reiterate what we went through, segment one, we had the AEW Dynamite Rampage, review, where we talked about the street fight between Chris Statlander, Willow of Nightingale versus Julia Hart and Sky Blue. And we also talked about the I Quit match between Adam Copeland and Christian Cage. And we also talked about the new Continental Champion, Okada, defeating Eddie Kingston for the belt. So, like I said, if you didn't watch it, make sure you go ahead and give it a look because it was a doozy. All right, so just a reminder, we get a number of questions from our viewers that come in during the show. So to ensure your question gets read on air, I ask you to use the tips and donations link at the GSMCpodcast.net. This puts your question at the top of the list so I can see it. Like I said, tell me what you like, tell me what you don't like, tell me what we can further talk about. I'm always here. I'm your wrestling guy. So I would really like to see your questions, guys, your opinions, your comments, whatever. So once again, the link is the GSMCpodcast.net. So, yeah, I love talking to people. Obviously, that's like the thing. I'm a podcaster here. But let's further dive into the Thursday Night Wrestling preview. So the Thursday Night Wrestling preview, we have TNA on tonight, on TNA Plus. I think it's also on Access channel, I believe so. So just to get into it, we have Jordynne Grace defends her title against Tasha Steelz. So at Last Sacrifice, it was Grace Steelz in a triple threat match with Xia Brookside, and and it ended with Grace pinning Brookside and not necessarily pinning Steelz. So the following week, Steelz comes out and she uses that classic, like, I was never pinned, you never know if you're better than I am, I'm better than you still, yada, 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 to kind of, urge the champ to kind of pull the trigger on this championship match to kind of just like shut her up, you know what I mean? But I don't know, it should be a good it should be a good one. Should be a good one. She says, I was never pinned. I demand a recount. No, I'm just kidding. But next we're going to talk about Nick Nemeth. Dolph Ziggler. He set the challenge for the TNA, World Championship. That's pretty huge. He's been there a long time, and he hasn't yet had the belt just yet. He's talented as heck. I remember watching him in WWE. It's kind of crazy how he went from like a world heavyweight status, mid Carter, low Carter, He showed up every other, SmackDown. He was in Battle Royals just to get thrown out, or in a Braun Strowman match, just so Braun Strowman could show the world how strong he is and just kick his butt. And then I don't know. I kind of I kind of miss Dolph. Dolph was kind of like a personality. Um, so he's gonna challenge the champion Moose. So that should be pretty cool to watch. Um, so after a successful title defense, Mustafa Ali, the X Division champion, will seek out his next challenger. Ali hosts the Rebellion referendum, which is kind of like Miz TV, or you know who's the Australian guy who's from NXT, the Grayson Waller effect, kind of like something like that. So I'm interested to find out like who comes out tonight and who like sticks his flag in the ground and wants to challenge for the X Division champion, because essentially Chris Sabin had him. And then like heels win in the wrestling business. Ali put his feet up on the rope. That's leverage, and that's just how it all goes down, guys. So, interesting to see that. Ash by Elegance has been confirmed to face off in her third match in TNA. So, watch out for that. Crazy Steve defends his digital championship title against a horrific monster that is PCO. PCO, like that guy looks crazy. Like I would never want to see a guy like that. Like this guy's like not as crazy as Bray Wyatt. Bray Wyatt was kind of like top crazy, but this guy's like definitely like kind of like a Lars like Sullivan kind of guy. Who's just like, I don't know, like this powerhouse that wears a mask and just ready, or the Monster Abyss from old school TNA, back when they had like a hexagon ring. But moving on. So next we have Ring of Honor 56 is also going to be live tonight. The Ring of Honor Women's World TV Title Tournament continues, and if you've been paying attention to the tournament, like I have, it's getting pretty darn good. Like my pick's still in. I have Mercedes Martinez winning it all, but she's fighting Billy Starks, and Billy Starks she's pretty good. She's on a roll right now as well. You kind of have that momentum versus veteran. That's something kind of pro wrestling uses to their like advantage to like kind of build up for like a main event, so to speak. So I don't know, that should be one hell of a match. Next we have Queen Aminata versus Red Velvet. This match should be really, really good. Really, really good. Because you have both of these two superstars that I think when Velvet she is undefeated against the Queen Aminata. And Aminata has not defeated her yet in her two in her two matches. And I think she finally wants to get that monkey off her back. Maybe third time's a charm. Both of these superstars are riding like 5-match winning streaks. So both of them have momentum, and it's just going to come clashing together, and it's going to be good. And most importantly, it's going to see who's going to fight either Billy Starks or Mercedes Martinez. So that should be pretty darn interesting. So tune into that. After confronting Ring of Honor's women's champion Athena in her debut, Hikaru Shida is going to fight Rachel Ellinger. Stardom's Mina Shirakawa's debut is also going to be against Anna Jay. Anna Jay, although Shirakawa, she's a phenomenal wrestler, Anna Jay's no one to overlook. Like, she was trained by some of the best in the industry. For example, like she was trained by my man Brody Lee from the Wyatt family, who sadly passed. But a vet, so nonetheless. And I don't know. Usually, you have the women who kind of prosper and become champions. Kind of have this story of like having a WWE legend or someone who was really successful in the business, kind of train them. So I don't know. It's not going to be a walk in the park. Absolutely not going to be a walk in the park for Mina. So hey, we'll see what happens. We'll tune into Ring of Honor as well as Impact Wrestling tonight, and see why it's very, very good. Like under the radar, very, very good. All right. So to kind of preview the next segment here, we have Ronda Rousey's comments on the WWE. Oh man, when I read this, it was kind of like bittersweet, to be honest. But I'll share why when we come back.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
All right, now we're back. The Wrestling Laureate Podcast, presented to you by the GSMC Podcasting Network. So let's do the rundown. Excuse me, sorry. We have segment 1. We had the AEW review. Segment 2 was Thursday Night Wrestling, Ring of Honor and TNA. And third, building up to it, is Ronda Rousey's comments on the WWE. So, Ronda Rousey has officially confirmed that she will never, ever, ever fight for the WWE once again. She had her reasons, but ultimately, Ronda Rousey will not be joining any kind of WrestleMania or any kind of Bash of Berlin or SummerSlam, because, and she has viable reasons, but I don't know. I think just kind of the way she brings it to the I don't know. Ronda's beliefs were kind of really like super straightforward. Like, she comes from UFC, where I think the crap talking game in UFC is like pretty good. It's pretty big. You kind of have to do that to like sell crowds and stuff like that. But she called wrestling, or just WWE in general, she called it like an SHIT show. It was oh man, like, it's crazy because of so many other reasons, but she basically had this to say. She said, they can't hold a sword over my head and hold my career hostage. And I get it. Like, she sees the way that women were kind of portrayed, or allegedly portrayed, in the world of wrestling under Vince McMahon, under basically, there's a huge indictment going on, a huge court case, and usually, I don't know, like, I know I'm all about the news about wrestling, but I don't know, to be honest, I kind of don't like really sharing much of something like that's negative, what I mean? I don't know, kind of like keeping us in like a really good mood, like talking about wrestling, talking about cool stuff that happens around the wrestling world, someone coming back, or or an awesome superstar does awesome things for a charity or something like that. But hey, sometimes there is a dark side of the ring, so sometimes we have to discuss it. So Ronda Rousey, she won the bronze medal in judo at the 2008 Summer Olympics. Obviously before UFC. The moment she came onto UFC, she was absolutely a shining bright star. She was one of the biggest UFC stars, and she still is. Absolutely. She's been she's like a staple in women's UFC fighting. And she was the first ever UFC women's bantamweight champ. So she can add that onto her illustrious accomplishments, which include her appearing at the 2018 Royal Rumble. She didn't necessarily fight, but when, there was the winner, or, she came out and her music played, the bad reputation, like, and everyone was like, oh my God, it's Ronda Rousey, like, that's sick. So I thought that, she was a big deal when she came back on, and honestly, I kind of had high hopes for her. I thought she was going to be a lot better than, I don't know, like, she kind of came in, but, moving on. So her accomplishments are, she's a 2-time SmackDown Women's Champ, a 1-time Raw Women's Champ. She's also a 1-time Women's Tag Team Champion. She's won the Royal Rumble, and she was part of the first ever women's main event at WrestleMania, which included Becky Lynch, Charlotte, and Ronda Rousey. Kind of like a triple threat match. I remember watching that match, and I think Becky rolled up Ronda, and the way she pinned her, like, her body wasn't really on top of her, like, crossed, like you usually cover somebody for the pin. The way it kind of happened, it just seemed like so, like, I remember watching it with my wife, and we were like, what just happened? Like, do you think that was planned? Or do you think that was just, like, botched? And I was like, oh, I don't know. Like, the way it kind of went down was kind of weird. But, all in all, I thought it was, it's wrestling. It's wrestling, guys. That's just how it's gonna be. So after she took a break from wrestling, we didn't see her for a pretty long time. She was starting her family. She had her first child. She eventually returned to the WWE in 2022. She left the summer of 2023, and her last match was against a longtime friend, Shayna Baszler, at the SummerSlam of 2023, and Baszler winning. And what's weird? When I was watching that match, I remember, talking to somebody, and I was like hearing a lot of rumors about Ronda Rousey making her return back to the UFC, which she was planning on doing, but I don't think it's kind of, came. I think she wanted to do UFC 300 in April, but I don't know. I don't think that's gonna happen. But anyways, like, the moment she beat Baszler, because everybody was expecting Ronda to win, and everybody was like, "Oh, okay, this is how Ronda's gonna spark her career again, and kind of be a women's world champion contender." But when Shayna Baszler won, I had speculation. I was like, "Hey, like, I kind of read that Ronda Rousey's not, extending her contract, that she kind of wants to make a comeback to UFC." And everybody was like, no, man, she's WWE for sure. She's WWE for sure. And I thought this was going to be kind of like a way to, like, propel her friend Shayna to, like, be, like, more, like, main event worthy. Like, you know what I mean? And so then I knew she was going to lose that match just because I saw that rumor online. And I was like, oh, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Shayna wins here. I think I was the only one at that SummerSlam watch party, and everybody was like, thought I was, like, tripping. They're like, hey, man, you must be high. I'm like, no way, man. High off life, baby. Yeah. And I was hanging out with a couple buddies. We were barbecuing and having some drinks. But all in all, I don't know. I think that was a way for, like, kind of like a nice little goodbye for Ronda, to kind of help her friend Shayna Baszler, who is part of the wrestling industry and who has been, part of NXT around SmackDown for a pretty long time. So I don't know if that's the way she wants to go out. Like, to be honest, if I went out in my company and I had a chance to make my best friend, a coworker, look good, I'd want that for him. Like, you know what I mean? Obviously. But I am a little concerned about why, if someone wants to make a comeback to the UFC, why would you trash WWE? Recently, WWE has merged with the UFC for the TKO. And essentially, like, I don't know, like, you couldn't kind of put in like an X on your back, man. Like, you're already talking crap about the company, but allegedly talking crap about the company. Well, no, not allegedly. It was like right there in plain sight. Like, it's on every wrestling, news site. So check it out, man. Like I said, to be honest, and these are my honest opinions about it. Ronda, main event in WrestleMania, Raw champion, SmackDown champion, Royal Rumble winner, women's tag. She was kind of handed everything. Like, not handed everything, because I'm not saying that she doesn't, like, try hard, and I don't want her finding out where I live and, like, beat the crap out of me. But like they gave her some of the main accomplishments that WWF and WWE has to offer, like a Royal Rumble winner, 2 champion. Like she had it pretty big. She had it pretty nice. And I wonder what went wrong to the point where like she would feel comfortable to come out and kind of like say that about wrestling, WWE kind of being a MS show, like, you know what I mean? And that and also another couple of critiques. And it's not like I'm not a Ronda Rousey fan. When she was on the screen, super cool to watch. It was cool to watch her matches because you automatically had a pre-assumption that Ronda was going to win. So when she lost, it was like super surprising, and that's what, you know, we as WWE fans kind of like to see, is like a shock value. I think that's everybody. I think that's why everybody watches, like, you know, like corny, like horror movies. I know I'm a huge horror movie guy, but not like recently, because horror movies nowadays are like so predictable. Like, oh, she's gonna turn that corner, she's gonna totally trip, or dude, guess what? Like, the assassin or the killer is gonna randomly like just pop up and like, I don't know. Like, I love corny Halloween movies though. Like, I like Michael Myers, Jason Voorhees. I wasn't really a huge Scream guy. I really wasn't. No, I don't know. Anyways, moving on. Or Freddy Krueger. No, we're moving on. So I thought she was way too UFC for the WWE, if that makes sense. She was super UFC. Like, she would always come out her trash talking. Like, you felt like you were watching a UFC promo, not a WWE promo. Like, she would just get like, and she would always like have to like curse them out and call them the B word and stuff like that, and get in their face. And it was just too UFC for me. I gotta be honest, it was too UFC for me. And I don't like watching the UFC, but there's a reason why you have the UFC fans, and there's the reason why you have the WWE fans. Like, I know I'm a WWE fan because like I like the way the show is kind of structured. I like how it's not always like just punching and punching and punching, and guys getting just like, oh no, I like going this way and the other one going that way, or no, that's like, you know, like, but that's just me. Like, I like watching violence, but more of like a organized, sophisticated way. No, but I don't know. Like, I like watching WWE because it's WWE, not because it's the UFC. So that was one thing that kind of, you know, bothered me. Another thing was, if you paid attention to a lot of her matches, like, she would just botch moves so bad. She'd be throwing these poor, professionally trained women superstars, like, to the ground, where the point where, like, dude, like, it looked like that actually hurt. Like, she turned a regular, like, scoop slam, or like a fireman's carry, or like a takedown, into something that's like, oh my god, is that person okay? I don't think she, like, I don't know, like, I think that there's kind of like an art form to wrestling. And as much as I like Ronda Rousey, and much I respect her as an athlete, as a combatant sports, you know, legend, I don't think she was good for that. She wasn't right. And usually when something's not right, you know, you usually see it on the screen, or you see it kind of blow up, like it did, you know, in this with her trashing the WWE. All right, so don't go anywhere. We have our last segment. We have Alicia Fox making a comeback to wrestling after she's been off the screen for so long. We're going to get a chance to see Foxy back on the screen. Obviously, Alicia Fox, she was a Women's Diva champion. She was like a manager kind of thing. I thought I was going to see a lot more of her kind of heading into like wrestling, but I don't know. Hey, like, you know, we'll talk all about it. Don't go anywhere.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
All right. We are back with the Wrestling Laureate Podcast presented to you by the GSMC Podcasting Network. Just to kind of go through the rundown of what we talked about today. We had our AEW review. We had our Thursday Night Wrestling preview with the Ring of Honor as well as TNA Impact. And we had a little discussion about Ronda Rousey's comments toward the WWE, it being like an SHIT show. But to kind of finish it off, we're gonna end with like a lighter note. Like we have Alicia Fox. Alicia Fox has been a legend in the WWE. Like when you see her, you're like, oh my god, whatever happened to her? Like she was so good. She had pretty good mic skills. She was a good wrestler, to a certain extent. But I don't know. I kind of miss seeing Alicia Fox on the tube, and I'm happy to see her, kind of come back to the wrestling world. Alicia Fox hasn't been seen on the wrestling screen for over 2 years. I guess she's going to be wrestling under her new name of Vix Crow. She set the face of Mickie James at Stardom, so that should be pretty cool. Her event in Ballarat, Victoria, Australia, April 12th. So, make sure you tune in. This is her first singles match in about 5 years. Last time we saw her on the WWE screen was the 2022 Women's Royal Rumble. And honestly, I'm going to miss her based on just her resilience and just like her, because she was like kind of dorky and she was like, I don't know. She was fun to watch. She was kind of fun to root for. She was that lovable, like underdog. But then again, she can be that like that bad heel or like I said, she was in the manager kind of business kind of thing, so she would like help her superstars like win the match and just like I don't know. Alicia Fox, she's I hope the best for her. I wish the best for her, in her future endeavors, but it's just gonna be so weird not seeing her on the WWE screen. She's what's contracted with WWE for like 17 consecutive years. So she's been like WWE did their part. They were, they were, honest with her. They were loyal to her. Like she was with the company for so 17 years is a long time, especially if you're like Alicia Fox, who, like, I'm not trying to be a jerk or anything, but kind of have like less accomplishments than like a lot of people on the women's roster, both NXT, SmackDown, and Raw. So I think kind of, WWE liked her and they, she liked WWE and they both like, they had this like trust, which is good, contracting skills to have, especially when you're trying to make a deal with like a superstar or like a potential client or like maybe like an ads deal or something like that. So, so she had an interview with Post Wrestling where she shared her emotions getting released from WWE. She said that she kind of felt relieved after leaving WWE. She said, I feel lighter in my heart, lighter in my soul. In that lifestyle, if you're conditioned to just go, like you're conditioned to be perfect, and they also just like you're conditioned to be a champion. And she said in the interview that every day was like you're leaving an airport, coming to somewhere new. And that kind of lifestyle is really tough, especially on someone who was very, she's very family oriented. I can imagine a lot of these superstars, like, see your kids for a long time, award shows, guess what? You're going to miss that. You're going to miss your baby maybe saying their first words, maybe getting up and walking for the first time. And that's pretty rough, man. That's why I think these WWE superstars kind of don't get a lot of credit that they deserve. That they don't get paid as much as like baseball players, basketball players. Well, some basketball players, but a lot of these wrestlers, like, they don't top out at big money like that. And these guys are constantly away from home. Imagine living life hotel from hotel. Like, it's you're not in your comfort zone. A lot of people like to come home, kick off your shoes. You kind of have this aroma, this kind of smell in the air that just they trigger, endorphins in your brain, that trigger in dopamines, and you're like, oh man, I'm home. Like I can, there's a certain amount of anxiety and stress that just probably pop out. Probably along with like a lot of, symptoms of depression as well. It's like being home or being in a comfortable spot. Like you guys are right now, hopefully listening to me battle on like an idiot, hopefully with a cold drink in your hand or some chips. I'm a chip guy, but I'm not a chip guy. My favorite snack are pretzels. Pretzels, ladies and gentlemen, are the best. A lot of people like rag on me. They're like, pretzels aren't a chip. And I'm like, dude, screw you, dude. Pretzels are awesome. So don't talk about pretzels like that. If you're right there smiling on the other side of the screen, talking crap, I'm just kidding. I'm talking crap on pretzels. But anyways, pretzels are good. That is all we have to say about Alicia Fox. I'm just kidding. So she wasn't really about that lifestyle. She, like I said, she felt relieved that she was out of WWE, which is, sometimes you're traveling. Like I said, she was contracted for 17 years. You're traveling for 17 years. It's nice to kind of, just kind of sit back and kind of do your thing. She debuted on SmackDown June 13th of 2008. I remember that was like once when the brand split was still relatively new. I think back in 2008 was once when WWE kind of launched their new ECW program, where you had Bobby Lashley, you had the Big Show even on, and you had Mark, the world's strongest man, Mark Henry, just like go back and forth with the ECW World Championship. But it wasn't classic ECW. Like they brought back ECW, but it wasn't really Extreme Championship Wrestling because it wasn't as hardcore. It was under the PG-13 kind of rules that that wrestling WWE is kind of constricted under. I think AEW is PG, and I think I said this in a prior podcast that that's the reason why they're kind of able to do these things where I see mostly just like dudes and like chicks, like not really any kids in the crowd. So it's kind of like more like an adult program, but either way, pretty darn entertaining. So she debuted in June of 2008. She was the first ever African American women to win the Divas Championship. So that's that's pretty cool. It'll be one of the groundbreaking, monumental achievements that she has, that she can kind of hold herself high. That as someone from the minority race to kind of be the face of the company. She pinned Maurice, which was the Miz's girlfriend, well, not wife. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Miz and Mrs. show on E. I don't even know if they're still airing it, but it's a pretty good watch. It's a pretty good watch. She was also on Total Divas. She was on Total Divas, one of the first ever like pilot episodes. Oh man, I don't even know if they're still doing that. I haven't watched regular television in so long. For me, it's either just sports, wrestling, or dorky comedy movies that play over and over again on TBS, TNT, FX. Or actually one of my favorite things to watch, especially on like a Sunday, because you have I think they know that people are home for Sundays. So FX will like have this kind of like this family movie thing. I like watching Grown Ups with Adam Sandler, Chris Rock, Rob Schneider, David Spade, and Kevin James. I like watching the Grown Ups 1 and 2, but it's always on. It seems like it's always on. But moving on. So she was also a Ohio Valley Wrestling Women's Champion as well, and OVW is the kind of like a school. Well, I don't want to say school, like an academy, a performance center, I guess is the right terminology in terms of WWE. It's a performance center where they get these guys like all hyped up and ready to go on to the WWE. Like you had Brock Lesnar fight there, you had Alicia Fox, you had I don't know if Seth and Roman were part of it, but there's a lot of big names that run through there, and hey, they go on and they have illustrious careers, and once they do their due diligence, they're Hall of Famers, WWE Hall of Famers. She was also a WWE 24/7 champ. What happened to that belt? Is that belt still around? I hope it's not, because that belt was like kind of an abomination of belts in the history of titles in the WWE. No, I'm not going to get worked up. Don't get worked up. No, but that title was pretty silly, where it could be defended wherever, whenever. You had people hosting the wrestling and like the events, and sometimes they would win the championship. R-Truth hold it for the longest time. Sometimes where there'd be like a promo happening, you would just see R-Truth run around the ring, and you would see like everybody like chasing him. And don't get me wrong, like it was entertaining as hell. So it served its part. But I don't know, man. Like it was kind of like I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Hardcore Championship. It was very, very popular, like growing up, especially for me, back in the early 90s, early 2000s. And there was a point where the Hardcore Championship was changed to where it was defended 24/7. And that's where I think maybe like they kind of segued this thing, where it was like absolute chaos that anybody could be the champion. Anybody could be the champion. But I'm actually kind of glad it's not there anymore. I'm not trying to sound cynical. I'm not trying to be a know-it-all wrestling fan. I'm just sharing my opinions with y'all. And I hope you guys still listen to me, even though I don't like the 24/7 championship. I beg you. Anyways, all right. So once again, thank you for tuning into the Wrestling Laureate Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support means a lot to us. So remember to Superman punch that like and subscribe button, as well as follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. As always, guys, remember that we are one of the biggest entertainment like headquarters in the podcasting industry right now. There's a lot of podcasts besides sports, but if you want to catch sports, you can catch TJ on sports. You can catch the Andrew Tate show, which is pretty darn interesting if you haven't watched it yet. You have the podcasting Tribal Chief on there. You also have my boy Nelson with basketball, talking hoops. Yeah, Sam with baseball. Baseball's right around the corner, guys. So if you want to like brush up on your baseball facts and find out what happened in the off season, or to the point where you can go into a bar and watch an Angels game and have something in common with everybody else to talk about. Watch my boy Sam. On the baseball. It's very, very good. Thank you once again, and have a phenomenal day.
A little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet. Damn, ain't that great. I don't wanna go to work.